Okay, I want to have a look at the Canadian pairs briefly because when I made the earlier video, I didn't know that two Canadian bank governors came out to talk about a rate hike in 2 or 3 weeks' time. So that explains the very hard push down. Now, on US Canadian, starting with this, I want to go over a few ways to view this because the move down has been very hard, and now if this does not correct in a bigger way over the next few days or maybe next week, once the month resets and the quarter resets, I will have to alter this count, not the printed one, but one I have in mind. Um, I want to go over the triangle issue because, in my opinion, if we look at this segment here, on the 1 hour, now this is very clearly 3 waves down. Now, to make this into 5 waves here, we would have to see, or rather, we would have to accept that this smaller box here, one moment, that this part here truncated because the low did not reach the low here. So you would have to deal with a truncation. And I'm all for doing that, but only during extreme moments. Like we saw in I think it was US dollar yen around Brexit last year. There was a moment like that to count in a truncation. So in a situation like this, I'm not really willing to do it. And also, if you look at the next segment down, I mean, this is clearly only 3 waves again. So despite the strength of the down move today, I'm going to stick with the idea that this is a triangle and that once this move exhausts, it will turn back up despite today's strength. Now, that's not to say it would turn back up to 135, but a few hundred points of correction into 132, 133. I am still going to look for that. Now, how to view the entire move down from 5 May? Now, I've forced this count. Essentially, I feel that this count for 1 wave down is valid. However, it's kind of forced in this segment, but there are no broken rules. So, I mean, for a 5 wave move here, I would probably prefer to view this as wave 1 into here, wave 2 to here, slightly truncated, wave 3, wave 4 is a triangle, and now a sharp wave 5 down. That will require this segment stopping by about 1.2970 because this segment should not be longer than the third wave. So for this idea to be valid, this last segment would have to stop above 12970, I believe it is, in order for this third wave not to be the shortest in the sequence. Now, if this does not correct, I will have to accept that there was a truncation here for a 5 wave down, and then I would probably end up recounting this as something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for wave 1, wave 2, and actually sorry, that was not what I had in mind. I was thinking actually this would be wave 1, wave 2, and then 1 of 3, 2 of 3, and a hard move down for 3 of 3 now, which would essentially be unrelenting into the 12876, that kind of area, 127, something massive like that. But for now, I'm going to maintain, despite the strength, that this is a triangle and that this thrust was, let's say, stronger than expected today because of the bank governor talk, two governors who came out. Now, they also did the same thing around here. One of them, I think it was Polis, who came out. So it was a kind of reiteration going into the next meeting, I think on the 15th of July, maybe the 13th. So let's see into the final GDP US print tomorrow. Now on the other pairs, the other Canadian pairs, Euro-Canadian, for example, it has technically done enough here with a 3-wave move into today. Technically that is enough, though I feel that the candle is not so weak, pardon me, not so terribly strong right now. So if into Friday, if the Canadian GDP news on Friday doesn't send this market tumbling, it is still possible to see a type of three-wave move up overall for a move higher, maybe into 1.5 something, 1.50 something. So I am preferring that now because even though this technically is enough, usually with these corrections you do get them in three parts. Like for example, in New Zealand Canadian, recently we had the three-part move. I would label it as such. So in any case, moving on to New Zealand Canadian, this is still above trend, and obviously it's only made a three-wave sequence here. My preference for this is to see the trend break, as I am bearish on this, and I feel that the monthly is coming in very bearish if it closes on Friday like that, though we will need to see how it closes as changes occur. But in any case, I am looking for this to break. The question is what kind of bounce we get, but the price action should inform it, should inform us about what type of bounce it is. Ultimately, I expect any bounce to hold the broken area here. Now, Aussie Canadian is another one that I'm looking actually for a bounce on, a corrective bounce, because we are at trend support, probably another low or so in this. But the issue with this one, I went over it on the weekend. In order to be bearish on this, I mean, it is, you can count it quite simply as three, kind of like that, for a move up. But for the bearish sequence here, I would have to label this as the first impulse. A three-wave correction like this. Second impulse. Now, the issue here is that if I go to the 4 hour, it's looking like it's just three waves into here. So I'm actually thinking, back to the daily, I'm thinking that if this bearish sequence idea is going to hold, we may see a repeat of this. For example, if you take this as the first impulse, a repeat of the correction where it's kind of like a flat, let's call it a flat. Here, something a bit similar to that, and then down. So I'm going to keep that in mind because this is the area that I originally talked about on the weekend, and it did not reach there. So as long as this does not break and we get a bounce, I can see this type of action being a repeat of this. What I've noticed is that often in particular pairs, local nearby price action tends to repeat something that just recently happened before. So I'll watch out for this if we don't see an immediate break, because on the 4 hour I'm still thinking, or rather I still see, let me put it that way, I still see this as 3, 3, and questionable. So I'm going to maintain that this will get a bounce. Aussie Canadian will get a bounce back up to about 100, let's say. New Zealand is bearish in my opinion, possibly a bounce. US Canadian, I'm looking for this to turn around tomorrow or Friday or maybe Monday on the new month, new quarter. And Euro Canadian, I'm preferring, though by no means, of course, none of this is guaranteed, but I am preferring to see a little bit higher and then maybe next week or so to see this really commence. So short of a really hard break in all these pairs, I am looking at all those ideas, those current preferred ideas right now, for basically little moves up still, as I went over. No technical analysis is 100%. As much as I prefer to view this as a triangle, if the idea that I'm currently running and preferring doesn't work out, I will be forced to reevaluate this as a truncation. No technical analysis is 100%. Doesn't matter what kind of analysis you use, even fundamental analysis is not 100%, because we all know how many years it can sometimes take for fundamental analysis to work out. So in any case, let's see if that emerges tomorrow. GDP print tomorrow and smaller GDP Canadian print on Friday. All right, bye-bye.